Good morning. Welcome to Resource Prepping. I'm your host, Greg. Welcome to the new subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate you. Please continue to like, subscribe, and refer this channel. I appreciate the growth. Well, by now, I'm sure every one of us have seen the tragedies and the horrors of the Ukrainian war and what Russia is doing to unarmed civilians and how the atrocities of war are occurring. And people are calling for war crimes tribunal against Putin. That's never going to happen. He may be charged with war crimes. They're never going to take him alive into the United Nations, The Hague, wherever they're going to do it. And I want to remind people that in virtually every war, unfortunately, there are war crimes committed, and the United States is as guilty as hell amongst all of them. And from my youngest years, I remember hearing on TV and watching the news crucify the American soldiers in the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, where soldiers murdered Vietnamese civilians in retaliation for an attack against their unit. I don't recall how many, but I'm sure the gentleman is still in Leavenworth serving a life sentence. We also have Abu Ghraib in Iraq, where American soldiers torturing Iraqi prisoners of war and civilians in the prison doing unspeakable things. And as of recently, you have a drone attack killing 10 innocent children in Afghanistan. And that was authorized by Biden and the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. These people were completely innocent, had nothing to do with anything in the war. It was immediately right after the attack that killed 13 of our soldiers due to Biden administration incompetence. So they thought it'd be a good idea to attack who they believed was a bomb maker. Turns out he was an aid worker and killed not only himself, but 10 children. Tell me that isn't a war crime. But I want to offer up a war criminal that is still on the loose and very available to be prosecuted in The Hague for war crimes against American citizens. He is currently the President of the United States, and I would offer up reasoning and rationale why this man, the Vice President, and the Department of Homeland Security all should be arrested and tried for crimes against Americans in genocide. It's bad enough that Russian soldiers kill 500 unarmed civilians, raping, torturing them, but I am offering up a mass murderer that is still sitting in office and is doing nothing about it and not even being charged with any crimes. Joe Biden and his associates in open border society is killing more U.S. citizens than any war in 1 year. And I'm going to offer up statistics as to why Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and all the other open border societies should be charged with war crimes and atrocities. And I'm going to read this to you. And here's the statistics. You can look them up, find them yourself. And I Googled in just a question. How many deaths due to fentanyl overdose across the United States? As of 4/4/2022, according to the CDC, that's this year, 100,000 Americans have died from fentanyl overdose this year. 2022, 100,000 Americans have died from a fentanyl overdose coming through the open borders brought up here by drug traffickers. Fentanyl is made in China. Do we hear anybody calling for President Xi Jinping to be arrested for genocide against the Uyghurs. Over 3 million have been tortured, murdered, disappeared, and organ trafficked, where they have their organs removed while alive, minimal sedation, if any, and their organs sold on the organ market. We don't hear Xi Jinping being called for genocide. No. But here in the United States, 100,000 American citizens overdosed from synthetic fentanyl trafficked by China through the Open Border Society. 100,000 Americans. Where's the war crime tribunal against Joe Biden and this administration? That's in a 12-month period. The states affected by fentanyl overdose are West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, Pennsylvania as well. Where's the war crime tribunal against this administration? And now he is opening the borders even further. Do you think the deaths are going to decrease? Do you think the single men that are being stopped and transported into your community through buses and midnight flights through the Department of Homeland Security are innocent bystanders? Could they not be front runners from drug cartels? These men are from 18 years old to 35 years old. Single men. Do you think they could not be mercenaries? Do you think they could not be drug runners? And yet, Joe Biden is allowed to continue. Texas, military confiscated, as of March 2022, 1,200 pounds this year alone in fentanyl. Last year, in 2021, 11,000 pounds of fentanyl was confiscated at the border. How many American citizens are going to die because of this man, this policy? Open border society. Where's the war crimes on that? The National Institute on Drug Abuse for usage of heroin, 12 years or older in 2020. 12 years or older. Now you think back when you were 12 years old. What were you doing at 12 years old? Were you using heroin? Was heroin available to you? Did you even know about heroin at 12 years old? 6th grade, 5th grade. 12 years or older in 2020, 0.3% experimented with heroin. And how does 0.3 translate? 902,000 youths, 12 years old, are using heroin. Where is the outrage on the American public, from the American public, about this? Where is the outrage from the congressmen, the senators, whether you have an R or a D behind it? Where is your outrage? Why are you not shutting down the borders? You are complicit in war crimes against American civilians. At 12 years old, why are there 902,000 children experimenting with heroin coming up from the southern border? And that's the people reported using heroin in the 12-month period. In 2021, amongst high schoolers, 0.2% of 8th graders used heroin. What were you doing in 8th grade? I was playing football. I wasn't using heroin. But yet, 0.2% have experimented with heroin. 1% of 10th graders use heroin. 1% of 12th graders have experimented with heroin and used it. How many people died from heroin overdose in 2020? 13,165 American civilians have died from heroin overdose, as reported in 2020. And this commander-in-chief, this administration, has opened the floodgates by canceling Title 42. Where is the war crime charges against this man? We are worried about Ukrainian town where 500 civilians were murdered. That's a crime. What's the greater crime? 100,000 Americans dying from drug overdoses in a 12-month period because of open borders? Where's the outcry on that? How about putting American first instead of pumping another $131 billion in money and materials into Ukraine? How about shutting down our borders? How about drug interdiction? How about drug treatment? How far would that $131 billion total have gone to save American lives? I didn't even bother to go into gun violence. We've got heroin on our street here in rural America, thanks to the guy across the street from us who has overdosed twice. And now we have people wandering our streets in rural America looking to steal, break into homes, prostituting themselves, being sold so they can get their drug of choice. All you have to do is look in the obituaries to see how many people, young people, have died. Where's the war crime tribunal on this? I hope you're as outraged as I am. You think about it. When next time you hear these people saying, oh, these people are just coming up here, for a better life. What about the 100,000 people that don't have a better life? How about the 8th grader that suddenly is spinning out of control because he OD'd on heroin brought up from the southern border? What about their innocent life? You think about that. You think about that very hard. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Please get yourself right with God. Get baptized. Greg out.